week after a 49er game. But today, with a little Monday night, we get the preview ahead of the Carolina Panthers. How are we doing today?
Man, we're doing fantastic, and I'm fired up. I'm fired up for this one. The big win necessary tonight for the Niners.
Let's start with some of the keys to the game, because leading into this interview, Papa and I were going deep into the desire for both teams to want to run the ball. That's Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson for Kyle Shanahan. That's Rico Dowdle in a major capacity for Dave Canales. As far as the defense for the 49ers and trying to stop that run, Curtis Robinson, big opportunity tonight in primetime. He hasn't gotten a lot of reps, but he is a veteran who has had a long journey recovering from a torn ACL. What are you looking for off the jump from Curtis Robinson taking on this large role, filling in for Tatum Bethune, who's already been filling in for Fred Warner, and a little green dot middle linebacker primetime action?
Well, I expect Robinson to actually play better in this game than he played in the last game, because now he's had the reps. He knows he's going to be in there. He knows it's his job. So I expect him to play even better. This Carolina team, they're a run-first offense. I mean, Dowdle and Hubbard. Hubbard's a much better pass protector than Dowdle. So if they go to a passing attack, maybe they'll use more of Chuba. But Carolina runs at 47% of the time. That's a top 5 rate in the NFL. So they don't just run it; they commit to running it, and it's going to be a challenge.
On the early downs, and then go after this undersized quarterback, and the 49ers have just not been able to generate a consistent, significant pass rush with their 4-man pressure. I love the fact you break down the tape every week with your eyeballs, but you also do it with the data, and you send me all the breakdown on when 3-man pressures, 4, 5, 6-man. I'm looking at it all, and I go into every game, and you're not going to, some snaps you're going to bring 6 men. Some you're going to bring 3. We're not going to make it overgeneralization and say, we're going to blitz them every play. But in theory, you go into a game thinking, blitz them or not to blitz them? That is the very question. I was surprised they brought so much pressure on Matthew Stafford. I would not do that. Brissett, they did not blitz. And I did hear you, and they didn't get any pressure on him, really. But they played more of a soft zone, got the big lead, as Robert Saleh detailed. And you asked Robert about that thought about whether or not to bring pressure. I think this is a quarterback you want to blitz. I saw him get hit 5 times in Atlanta. 2 were A-gap blitzes that their offensive line just let free, just let loose. They're not going to have their starting center, Cade Mays. He's out. They are going to use Austin Corbett, the former Ram, as their starting center. Greg asked you about Curtis Robinson. One thing about Curtis compared to Tatum, he is way faster. A 4.46 40. I think he's back to that nearly, Larry, because he's had over a year to get over the ACL. So just in theory tonight, from talking to Saleh, watching all the tape, all the analytic breakdown, Bryce Young, to blitz or not to blitz Bryce Young tonight?
Well, that is the question, and Carolina shredded Atlanta last week. And they had 9 pass plays of 20-plus yards. And this quarterback, he's a smaller guy. I mean, right? So that's one thing. You got to get your hands up against him. I think he's had 7 balls batted down thus far this year. So whether you blitz him or you do it with 4, you really got to keep him hemmed in the pocket, and you got to get your hands up because you can bat down some balls. Now, you looked at the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago against Stafford, they blitzed 55%. Last week against Brissett, they blitzed 12%. I think they want to get it done without blitzing as much as possible tonight. So I think it's going to be probably, in between those 2 numbers, but I think it will be closer to the lower number. I think they're going to try to get it done with more of their front 4, because they saw what happened to their secondary and to their linebackers when they blitzed such a high rate against Stafford. Everything started to come unglued. Guys started pointing the fingers. Simple breakdowns. You got the one key thing is the 49ers have had way too many busts. And they got to avoid the busted plays. Busted plays will get you beat. I expect Dave Canales to go up tempo on offense and to use more empty sets than he normally does, to put more stress on the Niner linebackers and the young DBs, and to test the 49ers communication. So It's going to be interesting, but that's what I expect. I expect a little tempo. I don't expect a heavy blitz rate. I think it's going to be closer to what we saw last week from Brissett. But the Niners play a ton of cover four. They played 24% cover four for the year, which is 4 deep, 3 underneath, 4-man rush. Last week against Arizona, they played cover four 50% of the time. We'll see what the Niners do. I think the Niners play nickel 80% of the time with 5 DBs. So will we see a lot more nickel? Will we see more? I think what you're going to find in this game is I think Shanahan is going to, two different approaches, obviously. The Niners defensively against Bryce Young, but then offensively, I think Shanahan's going to try to put them offensively in a situation where they have to play base, and then he's going to pick on their their backup linebackers who are both starting in this game.
Talking to Larry Krueger here as we do every Monday. Krug, last weekend we saw something I haven't really been prepared to see much of the rest of the year. That was a blowout win and a stress-free fourth quarter for the 49ers, but a big reason why they got into that predicament is they got 3 turnovers and effectively a special teams touchdown with Sky Moore running it all the way down to the 1 right off the jump. Do you think there's an urgency level to win the turnover battle against a team like Carolina? Because as talented as we've seen this offense go, they also have to shoulder a lot of the weight here. They're going to have to put up a lot of points because this defense has had a lot of learning experiences. They've had a lot of youth. I opened up talking about Curtis Robinson being in an unfamiliar position. And when you force 3 turnovers like you saw against the Cardinals, sure, that goes a long way. But say the turnover differential was even, might have been a very different game against Jacoby Brissett and that squad last weekend.
Yeah, the turnovers, they're essential in football in any level. But at the NFL level, it's even highlighted that much more because there's limited possessions in an NFL game. So if you have 3 turnovers and you're having a hard time stopping the run, or maybe you have a couple long drives of your own offensively, your offense could wind up, 3 turnovers could be half of your possessions for the game. So the 49ers are -5 in turnover margin. That's 25th in the NFL. I don't think it's accidental that they won so convincingly last week, because that game would have been closer if Arizona didn't have 17 penalties and -3 in turnovers. So yeah, turnovers are going to be absolutely huge in this game, I think, because the Niners don't force a lot of turnovers on defense, and when you don't force a lot of turnovers on defense, it puts a lot of impetus on your offense to not turn it over, so you don't dig yourself a big hole.
Larry Krueger, I want to get your thoughts on the story of the weekend and what happened on Friday right after we went off the air. Michael Silver had a huge story. We just had Mike on at 10:50, and we got into the whole stunning split, as he wrote about, between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. And you were there when Kyle meets the media, off the practice field on Saturday. 23 of the 26 questions involved Brandon Aiyuk. And you're around a lot. You've been there from the beginning of his career. You've watched the good and the bad, and it's sometimes the ugly of BA. Just your take on the news on Friday, and what does it mean for this organization proceeding forward?
Well, it's interesting because I'd like to say that the 49ers are always a united front, right? That they speak in one voice and they operate as one. I would never try to split Kyle and John or John in the front office. But in this situation, it really does sound like the 49ers football people would like Brandon Aiyuk to come back and finish the year with the Niners. But it sounds like the 49er business people were absolutely hell-bent on getting out from that contract. And once Aiyuk gave them a just cause to void the guaranteed money, they were going to do that. It's just as simple as that. If you bring $10 million to your company, but you cost them $4 million, then they love you. But if you bring $10 million to your company, but you cost them $100 million, as soon as you make a mistake, they're looking to move on. And I just think that the 49ers had exposure with that contract. And he obviously violated the contract. People suggesting otherwise, there's no reason that he would walk away from guaranteed money, especially when his knee is in such a precarious position. So I think he obviously violated that contract, and now it's a matter of how are the two sides going to separate. But then you heard Shanahan talking about, well, when it comes to the future, we'd love to get him back. We'd love for him to get healthy and play. So I think that you have a 49er coach that understands the value of the player, but then the 49er organization also had to protect themselves against the $20 million payment that they want to get out from under. So it sounds like they're speaking from two different voices, to be completely frank about it. And in Garofalo saying the belief is that he's close to being cleared and he can still work his way into being a Niner this year and beyond. How does that happen when you took away all of his guarantees? And what's his disposition? And then he's doing photo ops at jewelry stores. I mean, that's exactly what you need right now when you have no more guaranteed money in your contract is some pricey bauble that you're going to put on your finger or around your neck. So I don't get his mindset. I think this is a huge loss for Aiyuk, but it sounds like there might be two different schools of thought. There's the coaching side, like, hey, let's get this guy ready to go, and then the business side of, hey, if we can get out from this commitment, we are going to, and they did.
Few more minutes here with Larry Krueger, and yeah, that was the news of Friday and onward. Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers preparing for a divorce just 15 months after signing the 4-year, $120 million contract. I know that a lot of this Aiyuk fallout and offseason approach stuff is a conversation for down the line, but while I have you and I over the summer, we had a good handful of shows together, and a lot of that was centered around Jauan Jennings and him wanting more money. So before we let you go, I just got to ask you, how does this Aiyuk divorce impact the 49ers' approach to Jauan Jennings in free agency? Because I really do see two sides to this. I see the one that says, why are the 49ers continuing to give in to receivers who are acting out and demanding more money than some might think that they're ultimately worth? I also see the side of, he knows the offense. Jauan Jennings has always been a player that shows up for you, and you might have some more financial flexibility than you originally would have thought heading into this season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Jennings coming back is even a possibility if Aiyuk's, bloated contract is still on the books. So I'll just say that. So I think the Niners were going forward with the idea that, JJ's walking at the end of the year, and he still may walk. But now with this new development, I think it opens the door for JJ if he's willing to play ball and sign a reasonable deal and not sign some record-breaking deal. If he's willing to actually sign a reasonable deal, I think his odds of coming back have gone up now. They love him. John Lynch has described Jauan Jennings as his favorite player. Kyle Shanahan has nothing but respect as a former receiver for what Jauan brings to the table as a tough guy. Not every guy matters in the room, but this guy does. And I think they're going to do what they can to re-sign him. Now, if he's got his heart set on some 15, 20, 25 million, some exorbitant, gigantic Mongo deal, he's going to get that deal somewhere else. It's not going to be here. But if he's reasonable, I think the Aiyuk decision and announcement opens the door for him to come back in 26.
Yeah, the problem with JJ, and we do love him, is that you can't franchise tag him. You're not going to pay him that kind of money.
Right.
So I think he's going to have to hit the market just to see where he's at, but maybe you can circumvent that. So, not too long ago when you had all three, you had the best possible wide receiver room. You had Brandon Aiyuk, who was the quintessential X wide receiver. You had Debo, who was the quintessential Z, the split end, the move guy. He could also moonlight as a running back. And then you had the slot guy, third and Jauan, who had the big body, Jauan Jennings, who was the F, your slot. Now Debo's gone, Aiyuk's in limbo, and Jennings has had to reinvent himself. So just assuming that Brandon's not playing anymore this year, Jennings has made a nice transformation of that big-bodied X. He has. And now he's healing up a little bit. You've got Ricky, who can play both the Z and the F and some X, but mainly a Z and an F. And then you've got other guys, like Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, Sky Moore, the young guy Jordan Watkins that can fix, maybe you get Jacob Cowings back. I don't know. Just as the wide receiver room is right now, and they don't play a lot of 11 three wide receivers on the field, 11 personnel, because they like juice. They like the second tight end on the field. So basically, most snaps, Larry, and you would have the breakdown. You don't have three wide receivers out there. You've got two. Do you have enough, assuming that Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall stay healthy the remainder of the year, for this offense to really, take off now?
For this year, you're talking about this year. Do they have enough?
For this year.
I think they do. I think they do have enough. Why? Because CMC is 9th in the NFL in receiving yards. So he gives you, and the top 8 guys are all wide receivers. So he gives you receiving production that is the envy of every running back in the league. So I do think they have enough, but I would like to see Jordan Watkins out there. I think Watkins can contribute. It sounds like they think Cowing potentially can come back and contribute. I'm not sure about that one. But I think between the guys they have, the veterans, they've got some stopgap veterans, and then the young guys that we haven't seen yet, the Cowings, the Watkins. I even think Sky Moore could contribute more as a receiver. I do think they have enough. To me, if the 49ers, where they don't have enough, especially with Robert Beal's latest injuries, they don't really look like they have enough on their defensive line. And it looks like they're going to either have to poach somebody from a practice squad or sign somebody off the street to try to get by between now and the end of the year. But I think wide receiver-wise, there's enough bodies and enough candidates internally where I think they could probably not go outside and get through this year.
Krug, we always appreciate having you on, and interesting to get a little change up here with a preview show as opposed to a reaction show. But next Monday, we'll see what happens if the 49ers can break that curse, winning on the road in Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders is confirmed going to start. So this week, between the holiday, between 2 games in 6 days, we're packing a lot of action in, and I will be following all of your work on the Krug Show as well as Niners Nightly right here on the Sports Leader.
Well, hey, fellas, I always love talking to you guys. The one thing to look for, I think the Niners are going to win on third down. I think you're going to see Brock deliver some really nice throws against zone coverage. And I think Carolina is going to use a ton of empty set tonight. They use that more than any team in the league. They're going to empty the backfield against the Niners' 28th ranked pass defense and make the Niners cover all 5 eligibles. So tempo from Canales, empties from Canales. I think you got 2 defenses that are struggling, and whoever is the better, more creative play caller and whoever takes better care of the football is going to win tonight.
What's the prediction? Who wins and what's the score?
I'm going to say 49ers win it, Greg. I'm going to say 31-21, and then the Panthers get a late field goal to make it closer. I'll say it's 31-24 at the buzzer.
Ooh, that's right on where that point spread line is. I think it was about a touchdown favorite when we last checked. So all you gamblers out there, keep on notice if Krug is right, 31-24. All right, Krug, we'll keep an eye on that one. I'm going to write that one down, see if we give you some credit for it, depending on how it all plays out tonight.
Hey, have a great one, Greg. I love you, brother. Keep fighting.
Love you, brother.
And Silver, we'll see you soon. And you guys are my favorite, man. I always love listening to you guys on the way down. The football hour with the 2 of you and with T-Rock is the best hour on the station the whole week. I love that hour. I always love it when Silver agitates T-Rock because it sounds like T-Rock's going to end Silver's existence on the planet.
No. He's all bluffing. He's bluffing.
You guys are the best, though. And Greg, I love you, brother. And hopefully some of those stats are helping you get through.
No, he sends me all kinds of breakdown. I love it. I listen to it all and watch it all. Thank you, man. Happy holidays.
Yep, you too.
Larry Krueger on the Sports Leader. Yeah, I mean, look, I love pushing buttons, and so getting Tim Ryan just a little bit riled up during the football hour is always fun. But if I went a little bit too far, I stand approximately 0 chance in any kind of confrontation there. So all love for T-Rock, and I think it's the best hour on the Sports Leader because it's when we do the least amount of talking on our Thursdays usually. So Krug's note on third downs. I want to get into that a little bit because I know we got about 45 minutes left with Pop. And we got into this third down. We got into Carolina's identity. And how can Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle and Juwan Jennings find ways to stay on the field? You want to make life hard for a favorite in primetime? Have their best players watch it from the sideline. We'll get into that next on the Sports Leader.